we can only do our best in love, not out of fear, but from a place of love. When we do things from a place of love, it becomes easier and it becomes better. But when we do things from a place of anxiety, from a place of fear, then that's when we become manipulative, that's when we become controlling, that's when we become judgmental, we shame them, we guilt them, and so much more. So I had to unlearn a lot of things in that context, and sometimes I still find myself maybe I'll find myself reactive instead of being responsive. And when that happens, it takes grace to come back to them and to apologize for reacting in the way that I hadn't planned to react, but maybe things just got out of hand. So that, I feel like for me, that's how it's been as an anxiously attached person when it comes to my kids, that I would be upset that maybe they didn't like something that I thought they would like, or they didn't choose what I thought was best for them, or they didn't like recently I had made some clothes for them, and the youngest one did not even want to give it a shot. She's like, no, I'm not wearing this. And almost immediately he's like, Mommy, how are you? And I told him, I was like, honestly, I'm sad, but it's okay. So that's how it's been, like me progressing in being anxiously attached as a mom. And then now as an entrepreneur, how does it look like being anxiously attached? I think I've previously talked about how back in the day, if a customer said they didn't like something, I'll take it personal. I'll think that basically what they're saying is they don't like me or they don't like my choices. But at the end of the day, you have to realize that everyone has their own preferences when it comes to how they dress, how they want to look, how they want to be perceived. And we can't always control other people's perceptions or their opinions. They can give us their opinions, but what we do with that information now is up to us. So if someone came to me and said they didn't like something, I would take it personal, and so I would be defensive. I would end up being, instead of sorting the issue at hand, things would get out of proportion. I remember there was a certain time where a customer was complaining that they got a jacket, they washed it, and then it discolored and whatnot. And so now I was like unsure of how to handle the situation. I spoke to a friend, and she said that sometimes what a customer would seek is empathy, to know that you feel the pain that they're feeling. But most times we as business owners, we would want to defend ourselves, want to defend our business, and in so doing we end up making matters worse. So sometimes it's important to take a step back and analyze the situation. That what is really the problem? What is the customer actually really saying? Is it the problem with the product? Is it really the problem with me as an individual, or is it a problem that is them? Because sometimes it's a them problem and not a you problem, or not the product problem, because sometimes people really do have bad attitude. And so how do you handle it as an anxiously attached person? Because sometimes there's people pleasing in there, where you want them to see you, you don't want to lose the client, but it's not even from a good place. It's because sometimes people pleasing, you want to do something for someone, but in the end you resent that thing, or you resent them, or you resent that you even brought about the idea. So I think as an entrepreneur and knowing that I have this attachment style, most times, even if a client sends me a text, I will take my time before I respond to that text, especially when I start to feel that maybe my heart has started racing, or I'm shaking, or I've become more aware of my internal atmosphere, making sure that am I calm, am I hurt, so if I'm hurt, can I take some time, and then after I've looked at the whole conversation, and perhaps if I need clarification, then I would ask the client to clarify, is this what you're trying to say, and where I need to stand my ground, then I have to also communicate clearly, so that at the end of the day, I want to maintain the relationship with the customer that is peaceful, but also in such a way that the customer feels heard and seen and maybe understood as well. Now, in terms of a community or being around different people, I think as an anxiously attached person, I've wanted to control their perception of me. I've wanted to be liked, I've wanted to be validated and all that. But at the end of the day, we know that we can't please everyone, and not everyone is going to agree with how we think or our opinions. And I think that's something that I've had to make peace with, that it's okay for not everyone to accept the way that I think or the way that I see things, and it's also okay for me not to agree with other people and how they see things, and we can still be in community even though maybe we might not. Basically, we can agree to disagree. So I think majority or overall, all I can say is what has helped me the most is being self-aware, is recognizing when I'm triggered to be reactive and not responsive. Being anxiously attached at times can make you feel silly, and so it can make you feel silly because at the end of the day, you want people to see you as this perfect person or to perceive you in a certain way that is good. But at the end of the day, sometimes I think being good can be objective or rather subjective. So we can't always control other people's perception of us, and I think that's the biggest challenge, acceptance. And it's a thing, it's a process. It can't happen overnight. It's a process. And also sometimes when you firstly accept yourself and accept where you are at as an individual, it makes it easier for you now to accept others too, to accept that they might not meet you where you're at because maybe they're far off in their healing journey. Maybe they haven't even started a healing journey. Maybe they don't even believe in those things. So at the end of the day, being anxiously attached and knowing that you're anxiously attached helps you to navigate your relationships well. It helps you to make decisions from a place of knowing and not just being reactive. Being anxiously attached doesn't mean that it's an excuse to behave in a certain way. It's just there to help you to understand things, why you might see things differently, why you might see things in a certain way, and why maybe certain things might threaten you or your security or how you feel. So, and now that you know that you're anxiously attached, it's also important that the way that you communicate to others is also going to affect how they respond to you. For example, I would at times respond to my husband as though he was also anxiously attached, or I would present certain issues as though he's also anxiously attached. So you need to understand that the way that you communicate as an anxiously attached person is different from the way that an avoidantly attached person communicates. Likewise, the disorganized person also has their own way in which that they receive and give out information, or how they communicate. So you have to understand that the way that you approach an avoidantly attached person in terms of conflict is different from how you would approach someone who's anxiously attached. So that is also important for you to understand, that you can't approach different attachment styles just the way that you are. And when you understand that, that is how you're now going to understand how best to resolve conflicts in your relationship. Alright, that's all we had for you today. Be sure to like and subscribe, and be on the lookout for next week's episode, where we'll be talking about the inner child and inner child wounds. Perhaps you've heard about the inner child and you'd like to understand what is this whole inner child thing all about. So be sure to be on the lookout for next week's episode.